Eating healthy is so important for good health, but if you're managing diabetes and trying to stick to a budget, it can feel especially challenging. We're joined by dietitian and diabetes care and education specialist Rachel Taft talking about healthy, affordable food choices. Diabetes Primetime is brought to you by Reliant Community, an amazing program available exclusively for Walmart customers with a Reliant Premier meter. Get free diabetes tips, recipes, and support sent right to your phone. Just click the link in the comments to learn more. Before we get started, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and let us know if it's your first time joining us. Rachel, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
So, what are some of the biggest challenges you see that people have when they're trying to eat healthy without spending a fortune?
I think the biggest challenge is debunking a lot of the misconceptions and myths kind of pushed forward by wellness culture. I would say the ones that really most interfere with our ability to eat healthy on a budget are constantly telling us that we should not eat processed foods, we should not eat canned foods, or that we really need to be focusing only on organic, fresh produce. And I want to talk about these three things in particular. So, canned foods. Canned foods are affordable, but they're not only affordable, they're shelf stable. So they can last on the shelf for a really long time. A lot of people are really concerned with the salt content in canned foods. But for almost every canned good, you can get a low sodium or no salt added version of that. You can also rinse the food to remove a lot of the excess sodium. So what I would do is throw it in a colander and wash it off until you see all of those bubbles go away. And that's usually when you've removed most of the salt. Fish and seafood tend to be some of the most nutritious foods that you can buy at a grocery store. And sometimes the fresh or frozen options are just really, really expensive these days. You can get canned tuna and canned salmon, and these foods are just as high in omega-3s and protein, and they're much more affordable. I also want to talk about the word processed. Processed just means that something has been changed from its original state. So there are foods that are highly processed and then foods that are only minimally processed and then kind of everywhere in between. If we just eliminate all processed foods from our diet, we actually are getting rid of some of the more affordable options. For example, like chickpea or lentil pasta. These are highly processed items. So a chickpea or a lentil, or they have other types of beans as well, is basically ground down to a powder. Maybe some flour is added, and they're processed into this special size and shape, to make it appealing for like a pasta. And so this is highly processed. But being that this pasta is made from beans, it actually makes it really high protein and really extra fiber, or a lot of extra fiber. So it's actually better for you than just your regular whole grain pasta. So this is an example of a processed item that is actually really part of a nutritious, balanced meal. I know we've heard a lot in the past to kind of avoid the aisles when we're shopping in the grocery store and just stick to the outside, the perimeter. But the aisles are where a lot of these healthy processed foods can live. So I do recommend taking a trip down the aisles too.
What are some of the other wellness myths that can be challenging for folks?
I would say a big one is the need to eat organic. So we are constantly inundated with, messages that, dirty dozen, pesticides. And I think what most people don't really take into account is that we can remove the vast majority of the pesticides from our food by cleaning our produce. So you do not have to buy organic produce in order to eat healthy. Organic produce has very little to no nutritional difference from conventional produce. The real only difference is the amount of pesticides or type of pesticides used. If you're able to dunk your produce in some water with some baking soda, that's going to remove most of the pesticides. And so you don't feel like you have to eat organic, which is generally sometimes double the price. Another good example of a processed item that's very affordable and nutritious is tofu. Tofu is generally refrigerated, but there is actually shelf stable tofu that you can find on the aisles. This is a complete protein. It's got all the essential amino acids. It takes on whatever flavor that you're using of whatever sauce. And it is a highly processed food. It comes from a soy plant, so it is a green plant processed into this kind of white block. So we can see now that these really highly processed foods, some of them can be part of a balanced, nutritious meal.
So let's talk about carbohydrates. How can someone make smart, affordable choices that also support blood sugar balance?
So, most of the time, we want to be selecting high fiber carbohydrates. The high fiber content is going to make our blood sugar not spike quite as high and not quite as fast. And these high fiber carbohydrates are generally pretty affordable in the grocery stores. This could be, your long lasting fruit, like your frozen fruit or your apples, or your oranges. Other examples could be potatoes, sweet potatoes. These last a long time on the counter. And then in addition to that, we can use low sodium, no salt added canned goods can be a good example of this as well. We can also find in the aisles bagged beans or canned beans. And beans are a wonderful high fiber carbohydrate to incorporate into your diet. You want to try to make sure that about a quarter of your plate is filled with these high fiber carbohydrates during your lunch and dinners.
So, what's your take on foods labeled diabetes friendly? How do they compare to whole foods that are often more affordable?
So I think this is one of the areas where they really confuse us and make us believe that eating healthy is so much more expensive. So for example, we have a granola bar that's labeled diabetes friendly. Well, what makes that snack diabetes friendly? It's probably higher in fiber, it's probably lower in added sugar, and maybe it's higher in protein. So this is going to be more expensive than the generic store brand granola bar right next door to it, because it's got this label, because it's got these diabetes friendly added ingredients. So the reality is that we don't actually need to purchase this healthier, more expensive version because we can make our own diabetes friendly snack with high protein, high fiber, and low added sugar with just some whole foods that we have on hand. So for example, an apple with a couple tablespoons of peanut butter and a string cheese. This is going to give you all the protein and low added sugar and fiber that this granola bar might. And actually, you're probably getting a lot of added nutrients in that whole meal snack as well. Another example of this is the popular new soda called Poppy. This soda is a prebiotic. So it's made with lower calorie, lower sugar. So, of course, this option is going to be better for us than a regular soda that doesn't have any nutrients in it that's really high in added sugar. But the reality is we don't need either of these options to be part of a balanced meal. If you want to get your prebiotics in, you can just eat fruits and vegetables.
We are going to pause here and do our trivia question. If you answer this question, folks, you'll get our guide to healthy eating on a budget. All you have to do is answer our question, which is true or false, preparing meals at home is often healthier than eating out. Is that true or false? Is preparing meals at home often healthier than eating out? Put your best guess in the comments and you'll get that guide delivered to your Facebook Messenger inbox for free. And folks, if you can think of any friends or family members who might find this show helpful, please tag them in the comments so they can tune in too. All right, Rachel, let's talk a little bit about meal planning. Why is meal planning such a valuable tool for someone trying to manage diabetes on a budget?
Well, when we meal plan, we're much less likely to waste our food. So, about 1/3 of the food in the US goes in the trash. It's not eaten. And I think one way we do this in the household is that we go and we buy items at the grocery store without having a real plan for them. When we've come up with a recipe or we've come up with a meal plan for the week, we can make a grocery list from that recipe or meal plan, go to the store, buy those exact options in the exact quantities that we need, and then utilize every last item that we buy.
So, what does meal planning look like for you? How often do you do it? When do you do it? How many days are you planning?
So, for the most part, I like to meal plan on the weekend before the upcoming week. This way, you kind of know what your week is going to look like. Is there going to be lunch provided at, a day at work? So we can kind of prepare ahead so that we don't end up making a lunch that we're going to waste. That said, there are some items that do last really well in the freezer. So, for example, if you're going to make a soup in the crock pot and a whole big old bunch of soup, and you just don't want to eat the same soup every day for 2 weeks, you can freeze half of that, leave it in the freezer. It can stay in there for a year, even 2 years.
So, Rachel, when someone is shopping on a tight budget, are there particular items or strategies that you recommend focusing on?
One of the best ways to save money is to buy different items at different stores. So, what you can do is make a list of your go tos. What are you buying, week in and week out? Just items that you keep in your pantry all the time, your staples. Make a list of your staples and then find the most affordable place to find those staples. Continuously buy those staples at that place. And in the long run, you're going to save money that way. I think that we all have depending on where we all have those stores that maybe they have this great price on certain staples, but then it's not the place you want to buy fresh produce. So if you're able, kind of stock up on those staples, the more affordable ones from that place, and then kind of keep those on hand in your kitchen.
Our trivia question is about eating at home, often being healthier and definitely less expensive than eating out. For someone who just feels overwhelmed by the idea of cooking multiple meals at home each week, is there any suggestions you have for them about how they might ease into cooking more at home?
Yeah, I would say start with making a protein item, a protein focused item that you can use in multiple different ways. So, for example, a chicken salad with some canned chicken and whatever veggies or, mayo, yogurt that you like in your chicken salad. And then you can use this in a lot of different ways. So you can place it on a bed of lettuce, bed of greens with other salad fixings. You can use it in a whole grain wrap. You can use it with a sandwich. You can eat it with veggies as a snack. So, you're kind of prepping just one big portion of your protein item, and then you can utilize how you want it during the week. I think another good way to start would be to kind of prep one protein item, one high fiber starchy item, and then some non-starchy vegetables. And then you kind of have all of these food groups that you have stored in the refrigerator, and then you can bring them together with the diabetes plate method to make several meals throughout the week. Maybe you make a whole bunch of chicken breasts. Maybe you have some sweet potato mashed up, and then you have some frozen mixed vegetables. And that can all come together with the diabetes plate method to make a balanced meal. But you have all of these already prepped in large amounts in the refrigerator.
In case you're just joining us, we're here with Rachel Taft talking about how people with diabetes can make healthy, affordable food choices. And we're giving away our guide to healthy eating on a budget if you answer our trivia question, which is, true or false, preparing meals at home is often healthier than eating out. Is that true or false? Is preparing meals at home often healthier than eating out? Put your best guess in the comments and you'll get that guide delivered to your Facebook Messenger inbox for free. Rachel, are there simple swaps or substitutions that can make comfort foods healthier without costing more?
I think my favorite swap would have to be Greek yogurt. It's so affordable, it's so nutritious, and it's so versatile. You can use yogurt in substitution of mayo. You can use it in substitution of sour cream. If you're making dips like, game day dips or buffalo chicken dip with cream cheese, you can use Greek yogurt instead. And this really gives you just a lower fat, higher protein option.
It's also a delicious snack. I have to put in a plug for that with Greek yogurt and a little fruit and maybe a couple nuts is like my favorite indulgence.
Oh, yeah, it's great for dessert or snack too.
So, where are the places online that you recommend people find diabetes friendly recipes that are also affordable?
So, some good places to find recipes online are going to be your Diabetes Food Hub. And then there's also other websites like Real Food Dietitians. You just want to make sure that you're using a website that really specializes in diabetes or has the macronutrient breakdown. So you're able to see the serving size, the amount of carbohydrates and the amount of protein so that you're getting what you really need. I know we've heard a lot about these meal delivery services lately as well, and I wanted to talk about HelloFresh for a minute. This is a more affordable meal delivery service, and you're able to get only the food that you're going to utilize. So it really cuts down on food waste. And then it also has, your calorie count, your macronutrient breakdown so that you can make sure you're eating the right amount for you.
I love that we're talking about HelloFresh because that is also another solution for someone who maybe is feels a little overwhelmed by cooking, feels a little overwhelmed by meal planning. That can kind of be a little bit of a transition into kind of getting familiar with what cooking at home involves.
Yes, that's what I love about HelloFresh is that, the recipe is right there for you. All of the items that you need are right there. So even if you're not a great cook, you can just if you know how to read, you can do it. You can just follow the recipe, and it really actually does end up giving you skills. So you start learning, which seasonings go with which meats or vegetables. You get practice with chopping vegetables, and it's just a great way to kind of get more familiar with the kitchen. And then maybe you're ready to kind of veer off of that and just start making up your own stuff.
So, what kinds of community resources like food banks, farmers markets, or meal programs can make healthy eating more accessible?
Probably the most common is going to be the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, the SNAP program. This is available all over the US, and it's going to give you money for groceries. A lot of farmers markets will actually double the SNAP dollars as well. So if you got, $40 a month, you can actually spend $80 at these farmers markets. And that really allows us to expand, our fruit and vegetable intake, and it helps the local farmers as well. There's other government programs like Women, Infant, Children for pregnant women and children up to 5 years old. I absolutely recommend that you do this. The eligibility is actually higher, like the income eligibility is actually higher than the SNAP. So even if you're not eligible for the SNAP program, you should still apply for WIC if you're at that point in your life. Another common program is the Meals on Wheels. This is going to look different for every state, but definitely see the eligibility for that. Oftentimes, it's targeted towards seniors.
So, is checking out our public health department locally, is that kind of the best place to see the options available near us?
Definitely. And, if you're interested in, community kitchens and food banks, I would look that up as well. Usually it goes by your zip code. So you may be eligible for multiple of them.
So, if someone is watching this and thinking, where do I even start? What's one simple, affordable change they could make today to support their health?
One of the best ways to eat affordably is to cut back on food waste. So, one thing you can do today is go into your refrigerator and take an inventory of everything that you have. I'm talking the greens in the back of the drawer, the meats in the freezer. Take a full inventory and come up with a plan to utilize every last bit. If you notice some things are about to go bad in the refrigerator, just simply move them into the freezer. Or you can put together a soup or some kind of balanced meal like that and then place it into the freezer.
Rachel, what have we not talked about today that you think it's really important for the folks watching at home to know about eating well affordably?
I want you to know that you can eat healthy on a budget. We really want to steer clear of these healthy, marketed, more processed items that do tend to be more expensive and really just focus on whole food eating to get the fiber and protein that you need.
So, do you have any suggestions for that? It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't have a plan for dinner. I don't want to eat out because it's too expensive. I don't want to eat fast food because it's not healthy. What would you suggest someone in that situation do?
So, the best thing is to have items on hand at home that can come together quickly and easily for a balanced meal. These items should be frozen or shelf stable so that they don't run the risk of going bad. So, for example, maybe you have that chickpea pasta, a jar of red sauce, and some frozen broccoli. Put it together with the diabetes plate method, and you have a balanced meal already at the house. So, you know that you don't need to swing by on the way home with fast food. You already know that you have something.
I love the idea of kind of having a few meals that can be in our back pocket. They're made of things that are always in our pantry, always in our freezer. So we know when push comes to shove, we've got something. Can I ask you what yours is? Is it that chickpea pasta?
100%. I absolutely love that chickpea pasta. I find it at Aldi for a very, very affordable price. I also get the red sauce there, and then frozen broccoli you can get anywhere.
Rachel, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This has been such a helpful conversation.
Thank you, Ainsley.
And a big thank you to everyone watching at home. We so appreciate you being here and chatting with us in the comments. Before we go, here's the answer to our trivia question. True or false, preparing meals at home is often healthier than eating out? The answer is true. If you didn't get to answer the trivia question, but you'd still like that guide to healthy eating on a budget, just leave a comment for us and tell us what you thought of the show. We will be back to you with a new episode in a few weeks. Until then, please stay safe and take good care. Good night.